So this is the syllabus that we are going to cover in our Android application penetration testing training. Okay. So we are having total 14 modules and we will be covering one by one. So today we'll be starting with the introduction. Okay. So let me start. So what is Android OS? Can anyone tell me what is Android OS? Anyone? I have turned on the mic. If anyone knows what Android OS is, okay, okay. It is a Linux OS, open source operating system for smartphone. Correct. So Android OS is basically a mobile operating system that runs on our smartphone, right? It runs on our smartphone, or we could say tablet, right? So Android OS is basically an operating system that is running on our smartphone and tablet, and it was launched in 2008. Okay, so our Android application was launched in 2008, and it is open source. Open source. What I mean by open source is that anyone could use Android OS code to make their own Android version, right? For example, if you will just go to this site, you could see you could simply download their source code, right? So this is what open source means. Now, this Android OS is built with the help of Java programming language. So if anyone will say from which language this Android OS is built, you have to say Java programming. Okay, and it is built on the top of Linux. So our Android application, sorry, our Android OS is built on the top of Linux, right? So built on the top of Linux. When I say this Android OS is built on the top of Linux, I mean that in our Linux we have separate UID and PID, right? What UID stands for? Can anyone tell me what is UID?
User ID.
Yeah, so UID stands for user ID and PID stands for process ID. So in our Kali we have separate UID and PID, right?
Process ID.
Yeah. So in our Kali, we have separate UID and process ID. Similar to that, in our Android OS also, we have same thing. Like we have separate UID and PID. And the security architecture of our Android OS is similar to our Linux one, right? So the security architecture is also similar to Linux. So this was a brief introduction about our Android OS. Now, the second thing, what are the frameworks which are used in Android pen testing? Frameworks for Android pen testing. Can anyone tell me what frameworks are for that are used for Android pen testing? Okay, so the first framework is OWASP. So OWASP Top 10 is used for mobile pen testing. So OWASP Mobile Top 10. So if you will go to Google and you will just search this, okay, OWASP Mobile Top 10. So you could see this is the one, right? Now in our upcoming session, I will be discussing them one by one. So this is OWASP Top 10. This is one of the, we could say, framework which is used for Android pen testing. And the second one is NIST. Okay, so these are two frameworks that are used for Android pen testing. Now, what is the difference between pen testing and bug bounty? Can anyone tell me difference between pen testing and bug bounty? Guys, let me know.
Bug bounty is finding vulnerabilities within the websites, or we can say any applications.
Okay.
If there is any vulnerability or any issue we found, we can just simply inform the developer or the main container that the bounty has been found, and they can reward us. Penetration means we test the applications with various softwares, try to find if any issue, any vulnerability we have in that particular application or the website.
Okay. So let me explain. You were correct, but let me add few more points. So when I talk about pen testing, in pen testing, we basically make the application end-to-end secure. We make the application end-to-end secure. What do I mean by end-to-end secure? Basically, in end-to-end secure, we find every single vulnerability in the application. For example, if I'm testing a website, so I will find every single vulnerability, even if that is informational, even if that is low severity vulnerabilities. I will try to find all the vulnerabilities which is in that specific website or application or system, right? So in pen testing, we make that application end-to-end secure, and in pen testing, we follow threat modeling. Can anyone tell me what threat modeling is? Anyone? Okay, no problem. So in pen testing, we follow threat modeling. In threat modeling, what we do, we cover three things. Basically, we cover risk, okay, we cover threat, and we cover vulnerability. So in pen testing, we basically do these three things. So first of all, we make the application end-to-end secure. We find every single vulnerability that is in that application, and we patch them, right? But what about bug bounty? In bug bounty, what we do, basically, when we are talking about bug bounty, so in bug bounty, what we do, we go to a website, a random website. It could be anything. For example, I'm going to abc.com, and in this website, I am finding a specific vulnerability. For example, SSRF, server side request forgery, right? I'm going to this website and I'm finding this vulnerability. I'm reporting it, and I'm getting paid, right? I'm getting paid. So this is what bug bounty is. We go to specific sites, responsible disclosure websites, or some bug bounty program, or bug bounty platforms such as HackerOne, or I could say BugCrowd, right? We go to these websites, we find vulnerabilities in specific companies or websites, and we get paid for them. For example, we are going to abc.com, we are finding any specific vulnerability, and we are reporting it, and we are getting paid for it, right? We are getting paid for it. So this is what we do in bug bounty. We do not do threat modeling in bug bounty. We do not make the application end-to-end secure, right? But in pen testing, what we do, we follow a checklist in which we have to find every single vulnerability. Even if the severity of that bug is low or even informational, we have to patch it, right? So this is pen testing. Clear, guys? The major difference between pen testing and bug bounty. Okay. Now, the next thing, attack surface. What is attack surface? So basically, in simple words, we could say that attack surface is basically identifying the entry points of an application or a website from where an attacker could basically gain access to that application or basically exploit it. Okay, for example, this is an application, Amazon, right? This is an app, Amazon app. What I'm able to do, I'm able to find RC. And from this RC, I'm able to go inside that application, right? I'm able to have access, some kind of access. So the point, this is the access point, right? RC is the access point. So what is attack surface? Attack surface is basically identifying the entry points of an application from where an attacker could exploit the application or gain access, right? So identifying the entry points of an app, right? So this is what attack surface is. Clear, guys? Now we have three types of attack surface. Okay, can anyone tell me types of attack surface? Anyone? Does anyone know types of attack surface? Okay, so basically in Android application we have three types of attack surface. So the first one is client side attack surface. The second one is server side attack surface. Okay, and the last one is logical side attack surface. So guys, is this attack surface clear what attack surface is? Then I will be explaining these types. So tell me, is this clear what attack surface is? Everyone? Okay. Now types of attack surface. First of all, client-side attack surface. So basically, these are the vulnerabilities or issues which are affecting the end user. Who is the end user? We are the end user, right? We are the end user. So client-side attack surface is basically the vulnerabilities which are affecting the end user of an application or a website. For example, if you are using Amazon, right? So if there is any vulnerability which is like on the client side, so that is known as client side attack surface. Okay, so let me give you an example. So you are going to Flipkart, right? You are going to Flipkart, not Flipkart. Let me take Amazon itself. So you are going to Amazon. Now you are going to the login page of Amazon. You are entering your password and your email, right? You are entering your password and email. Now you are logged in. After this, you are logged in, right? Now, any vulnerabilities which are arising from this phase, okay, such as your session-related vulnerabilities, right? Session-related vulnerabilities, cookie hijacking, any vulnerabilities which is related to this specific phase is known as client-side attack surface. So, the vulnerabilities or issue which are affecting the end user. End user, we are the end user, right, of a particular app or website. So that is known as client-side attack surface. So one of the example of this type of vulnerabilities could be session hijacking, right? Here, guys, there are a lot of vulnerabilities related to this client-side attack. Clear, everyone? Okay. Next thing, server-side attack surface. So basically, the server-side attack surface are the vulnerabilities or issues which are affecting at the runtime of the application. When the application is running, this type of attack occurs at that time. So example could be SQL injection, right? SQL injection could be an example. RC could be an example, or LFI or RFI could be an example of server-side attack surface. Clear, guys? So this is what server-side attack surface was. Now the last thing is logical side attack surface. Can anyone tell me what logical side attack surface is? Anyone?
So like coupon codes we applied discount coupon codes.
Okay. So when I say logical side, basically these are the vulnerabilities which are affecting the business logic and business logic of an application. What I'm saying, business logic. So logical side attack surface is basically affecting the business logic of an application or a website. Okay, and this logical side attack surface is also known as business logic attack surface, because let me explain you with an example. You are going to Amazon, right? In Amazon, there is a discount coupon. There is a discount coupon that you could use only one time. You could use this coupon only one time. But what is happening? There is a vulnerability by which you could use this same coupon more than one time. You could use this more than one time, right? So you are going to Amazon, you are applying a coupon that can only be used only one time by one user. But what you are able to do, you are able to use that specific coupon more than one time. So what is happening? This coupon is basically affecting this type of vulnerability is indirectly affecting the business, right? For example, if I'm every time I'm using a coupon, so what is happening? It is affecting the business, like it is making loss for that business. Clear, guys? So this is known as logical side attack surface. So basically, these are the vulnerabilities which are affecting the business logic of an application. Clear, everyone? Yes or no? Let me know.
Yes,
Okay, so we have, let me just give a quick recap. Attack surface, we have three types of attack surface: client side, then we have server side, and the last one is logical side. Clear? I will be giving this notes, don't worry. Next thing, which was our lab, the lab environment. Now we will have to set up the lab which we'll be using for Android pen testing. Lab, okay, lab for Android pen testing. Okay, so first of all, for setting up our lab, we need two things. So the first thing is emulator. Can anyone tell me what an emulator is? Or second, we need a ADB, right? So
it's a virtual device.
okay, correct. So for our this lab, for our Android pen testing lab, we need to, first of all, the first thing is emulator, and the second thing is ADB. I will be explaining what ADB is. First of all, let's see what emulator is. Okay. So for emulator, you could use either Genymotion or you could use Android Studio, but I will be suggesting Genymotion. Okay. So for emulator, you could simply install Genymotion, or you could install your Android Studio, right? Or any application that you know. So these two things you have to install, and you have to download and install this application on your Windows. Do not install in your Kali or VirtualBox. Okay. So you have to download this. So let me show you how you could download this Genymotion. Okay. So you have to go to this URL first of all. Okay. Let me copy this. Now, if you are having VirtualBox, right? If you are already having a VirtualBox like this, if you could see, right? If you're already having a VirtualBox, you do not have to install this option. You don't have to download this option, right? You don't have to use this option. If you're not having the VirtualBox, then you have to click on this one. And if you're having the VirtualBox, like if you are already having the VirtualBox, you have to use this one, Light Installer. And if you're not having the VirtualBox, then you have to use this one. Clear, guys? So in my case, I'm already having the VirtualBox. So what I will be doing, I will be clicking on this one and I will be downloading it. Now I will be canceling it because I'm already having the Genymotion. Now, once you have downloaded the Genymotion, installation is very easy. You just have to double click and you have to just click next, 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 and next. And in few scenarios, sometimes it basically it will say you have to create an account. So just create an account and log in. Okay. So this was the first step you have to do. Download it, install it in your Windows. Do not install in your Kali. Clear, guys? Am I clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, for ADB, can anyone tell me the full form of ADB?
Android debugging bridge. Some.
Okay, Android Debug Bridge. Okay, so the full form is Android Debug Bridge. So I will be discussing this. So for ADB, you could simply download ADB from Google, or you could use operating systems which already have ADB in your Kali. You could simply install by typing sudo apt-get install ADB, right? But in this basically scenario, we will be using a framework, Apti. We will be using Apti. So Apti is a framework which is used for Android pen testing. Okay, so we'll be using Apti. The full form of Apti is Android pen testing portable integrated environment. So we'll be using Apti. Apti is basically a user interface from which we could simply we could use this Apti to find vulnerabilities in our Android application. We do not need a VirtualBox. We do not need anything. We simply need to download it and we have to use it, right? You could also install operating system for Android pen testing. There are multiple Android OS which are for Android pen testing specifically, but we'll be not seeing them because this is easy to use. Now for downloading, what you have to do, you have to just click on download button and it will start downloading it, right? You have to click on download now and you will be redirected to this website. Now, if you're not able to download it, first of all, you go to your Windows security and you disable your security, right? You have to go to your Windows security and you have to just disable this real-time protection if you're not able to download it, right? Now, once the download, just a minute. Once the download has begun, what you have to do, you have to wait for a few times. It takes time around 5 to 10 minutes, depending on your internet speed. Okay, so this was the step for Apti. Now, what is Apti? Apti is basically used for Android pen testing. It has a lot of tools such as Bobsuit, right? It has Dozer. So it has inbuilt tools. So we could say it has inbuilt tools. So this is the thing that we'll be using. And Apti already has ADB, right? Now what we have to do, once you have these two things, what you have to do, you simply have to install Genymotion, then you have to install Apti. And for Apti, once you are having the file, right? Once you are having this file, Apti, let me show you. Okay. I'm not having it. So once you download it, what will happen? You will see a file, right? You will see a file and you just have to click on that file and it will automatically give you the steps to proceed, right, guys? If you have any problem, you could let me know after the session while installing. If you face any problem, you could DM me, right? So you just have to click next, next, next. You don't have to deny anything and you will have your Apti. So after installing your Apti, do not change the path. Let it be as a default, right? So you don't have to change the path. Let it be by default. So once you install, it will be by default in this OS directory C, right? So you have to go to this folder and then you have to see a folder named Apti, right? You could see this file Apti. You have to go to this folder Apti, and now you are having this logo, right? Apti. So you have this application, you have to double click and you have to open it. So let us wait. You have to click skip. You have to click yes. You have to click on start. And now this is you could say simply our Apti, right? Now it is already having ADB pre-installed. If you could see, this is the ADB. Okay, so this is very easy to use. That is the reason we are using it. Now the second thing that we need is Genymotion. Once you have installed Genymotion, you have to open it. After opening, you will be not having any application. As you can see, I'm having two phones, right? Two different Android devices. But in your scenario, you will be not having any Android device. So what you have to do, you have to click on this add button, right? Now you could select any device. So I'm going with this custom phone. Now you have to click next. Okay. Now you have to click next. Okay, now you could give processor according to your system specs, but I'm giving 4. Okay, by default I'm giving 4 because I have 14 cores, so I'm giving 4 processors. Right, now I'm clicking next. Now don't make any changes. Click next, next, and network mode should be NAT only, and click on install. Now it will take few minutes depending on your internet speed. Okay. Yeah, you could only use Appy in your Windows. You can only use Appy in Windows. Genymotion can be installed in your Kali as well as in your Windows and in your Mac also. But I will not suggest to install Genymotion in your Kali because it will run very slow, right? Yeah, Nox Player is also used, but I will not suggest Nox because it has few problems. But yeah, if Genymotion is not working properly in your device, then you could go with Nox Player. Okay. Guys, any doubt till here? Let me know. Anyone? Now you can see that we have successfully installed our device, right? This is the device, custom phone 1. Now you just have to click on this play button and it will start your device. Now we have to wait for a few seconds. Sorry. So this is our Android device loading. Just wait a minute. Now this is the Android application, right guys? If you could see, this is the Android application that we installed. And one more thing, while installing the application, I will suggest you to only install Android version 6 Marshmallow because the tools that we'll be using are not like few tools are not suitable in every Android version. So you have to, like when you're installing, you have an option, right? You have to select Android 6 Marshmallow. Clear guys? You have to select Android Marshmallow. So you have to install Android 6 Marshmallow. Click next, 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 and next, and install. So let me delete this one. Let me stop this. Let me delete this. And let me show you one more thing. You could see we are having 3 devices, and you could see in VirtualBox also we are having 3 devices, right? So Genymotion is using VirtualBox to start this devices, right? So every process is done with the help of this VirtualBox. That is the reason we have to install VirtualBox also, right? You could see we are having 3 devices, and in our VirtualBox also we are having 3 devices: Android phone 1, 2, and the third one this, right? Okay, so we have installed the device successfully. Let me open it. Now, one more thing before this, we have to set up our ADB also, right? We have to use ADB. For example, I'm able to use ADB right now. ADB devices, just for your reference. So I'm able to use this command, right? But for you guys to use this command, what you have to do, you have to basically go to this Appy folder. Then you have to go to bin. Then you have to go to this ATD. And then you have to go to this SDK. I'm giving this path. Okay, and then you have to go to platform tools. I'm giving you this path, just a minute. Okay, so this is the path for ADB, right? Now what you have to do with this path, simply you have to copy this and you have to open your Genymotion. So go back to your Genymotion, open the Genymotion, and in Genymotion what you have to do, you have to click on this logo, Genymotion. Now you will be having an option for settings. Go to settings, go to ADB, and you have to use this custom. Okay, so by default it will be use Genymotion Android tools, but you have to click on use custom Android SDK tools, and you have to paste the path that I have given you, right? And once you have pasted, it will give you a tick mark. Just close this and then you are ready to use. Now let me show you. This is the IP address of a device, right? This is the IP address of this Android device. Clear, guys? Now, why are we using ADB? What is the reason behind using ADB? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me why we are using this ADB? With anyone?
Using ADB, we can access the Linux system
Okay.
standard.
Okay, so we will discuss that later. So let me cover one more thing, Android OS. I was telling about Android OS, right? So we have few Android OS. For example, Santuko is there. Then there is Android Timer, which is very old, but you could use for Android pen testing. These operating systems are specifically designed for Android pen testing. As we have Kali Linux, Parrot, right? Similar for Android pen testing, we have these two operating systems. If you will go to your Google and you will paste it, you will see this is an operating system which is used for Android pen testing. Android Timer, or let it be Santuko, right? So we use this type of application, this type of operating system for Android pen testing. Santuko OS, sorry, right? So these are two operating systems that you could use, but I will not suggest you because Appy is much easier to use. Okay. Now the next thing that we have to see is what is ADB. What is ADB? So I have told you the full form. ADB stands for Android Debug Bridge. Sorry. So ADB stands for Android Debug Bridge. Basically, this ADB is helping us to communicate with our Android device. So with the help of this ADB, what we are able to do, we could communicate with our Android device. Okay. So this is basically enabling us to communicate with our Android device. Okay. So it is helping us to okay, so it is helping us to communicate with the Android device, right? So this is what ADB is. It is helping the user to communicate with the Android device. Now we have to see a few commands of this ADB, right? We have few commands for ADB. Now we have a lot of commands. For example, if we want to install an application from our Windows in this, we could say Genymotion or our device. So what we could do, we could simply use some commands. Okay, so before that, one more thing I have to tell you, you have to install ARM translation. Okay, you have to install ARM translation, very important. I forgot this, ARM translator, okay, or ARM translation, you could say anything. So you just have to go to GitHub, copy this and paste it in your browser and type GitHub. This is the first thing that you have to open, the first URL that is coming. Right now, what you have to do, guys, you have to go to the version, Android version that you are having. For in our case, we are having Android 6, right? I installed Android 6. So you have to click on Android 6 and you have to download this. Okay, you have to click on download. Let me copy this and let me paste it in the notes. Okay. Now, why are we using ARM translator? Can anyone tell me why are we using ARM translator? Any idea? Okay, let me explain you. So basically, this ARM translator is helping us to convert the 32-bit application into 64-bit application. So few applications are basically 32-bit, right? And in Genymotion, they will not run. So what ARM translator will do, it will basically convert this 32-bit, or I could say this x64 device, native device, into this 64-bit application. So with the help of this, we could simply use the application which is having 64-bit architecture, right? So this is what ARM translator is doing. So how to install it? Let me see if we have downloaded it. Yeah, this is the ARM translation that we downloaded, right, guys? Now what we have to do to install this, what we could simply do, we just have to drag and drop. We have to drag and drop this to our Android device. You don't have to do anything. You just have to drag and drop this, right? Now, after this, what will happen? There will be a warning. It is saying, do you want to flash this? So you have to click on OK. And it will flash. And after a few seconds, it will give you option to restart. Now you can see we are having an option to restart. Click on restart. After this, we could simply use 64-bit application, right? So normally, what will happen, 86 native code is there in applications, right? So to use 64-bit application, we use ARM translator. Clear, guys, everyone? Yeah, I have pasted the URL. Okay, I have pasted the URL so you could see it. So the device is restarted, right? Now you can see we are the device is now working. Now what we have to do, the next step that I was telling you, ADB commands, right? Now we have a lot of ADB commands, but I will be only discussing few of them. So the first one is, if we want to install any application, for example, from our Windows, we want to install an application in our mobile device, right? In our Genymotion device. So what we have to do, we have to type this command, ADB install and the application name, the app name, right? So for example, I want to install, this is an application that I want to install. You can see this is the application ovapps.apk. This is the application that I want to install in our, we could say this mobile application, right? Now to install it, you could simply drag and drop and you could install it. The easiest way, right? But few times what happens, this will not work. So in that scenario, what you have to do, you have to just type this command ADB install and the application name, right? But one more thing, let me tell you, all the commands that we use in our Linux, most of the commands are used in this as well. Like all the commands are similar. For example, listing, we use ls and kali, right? So in this appy also we use the same thing. Nothing changes, right? Now we have to basically install this application from our Windows application. Like this application is in our Windows, right? So we have to install in our Android device. So what we will do, we will type this command ADB install and the application name. So the application name is ovapps.apk, right? So let me type it, ovapps.apk, and let me press enter. Now you can see it is telling success. Now let us see if the application is installed or not. Now let me see. Yeah, you can see this, right? So this 4 goats is the application that we installed right now, right, guys? Can you see this? So this is the command that we could use for installing an application. Okay, so simply you have to use this ADB install and the application name to install. Now to uninstall, for example, if you want to uninstall an application from your Android device, so what you have to do, you have to type ADB uninstall and the package name. Okay, the package name. I will tell you what a package name is. Okay, what a package name is. I will be explaining you what a package name is. Now, what is a package name? For example, this is an application. Okay, Amazon app. Now you could see this is the URL of Play Store, and we have opened this Amazon, right? Now, what is the package name? Each application that we install in our Android application is having a package name. You could see this is the package name for Android. So sorry, for this Amazon application, right? For example, if you visit a website, each website is having their unique domain name, right? For example, you could take our website itself, thecyberhost.com, thecyberhost.tech. So this domain is referring to our company, right? So similarly, if you are installing an application, each application is having a package name. This is the package name for this application for identification purpose, right? Now, let me go to some other application, right? You could go to any application and each application will have different package name. Let us wait. Let me go to this Flipkart app. Now you can see the package name for Flipkart is something else, right? So each application is having a package name. Now there are multiple ways to know package name, but the easiest way to know package name is type ADB cell. Right now, you have to go to this folder. I will explain you later on. Don't worry. So this is the package name for our application, right? So this is the package name for this application, this 4-goat application, right? So this is the package name that we want to install. This is the application that we want to install, uninstall. So for uninstalling, we basically use this command. So we type ADB uninstall, and then the package name. What was the package name? Sorry, I missed that. So this was the package name. Okay. Yeah. Now what will happen if you will see, as soon as I press enter, this application is uninstalled, right? You could see the application is gone. So to install the application, you have to use the application name. Okay, you have to use the app name, and to uninstall an application, you have to use the package name. Okay, each application is having a package name. So each app has its own package name. Clear, guys? Everyone? Yeah, I'm recording the session, and you will be getting this recording, guys. Don't worry. Okay, so you will be getting the recordings as well. Clear, everyone? Yes, recording will be provided, guys. Okay, so each application is having its own package name. Clear, everyone? Let me know, yes or no. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, if we want to send a file from our laptop, this is my laptop, right? This is my laptop which I'm using. Now, if in this laptop I'm having this file, this setting files. Now I want to send this file to my Android device. I want to send this file in my Android device. So how could basically I send this file? I want to send this file. So the easiest way is to copy it, right? But few times this will not work. Similar to the previous command. So what we have to do to send a file from our laptop or from our desktop to our phone, what we have to do? We have to type this command to send a file from laptop to Android device. So what command we have to use? We have to use this command adb push then laptop path, the path from where we are sending the application. For example, this is the path, right? This is the path from where I will be sending the application. You could see this is the path, right? And this is the file name. So what I have to type? I have to type adb push the path, the laptop path, and the file name. The file name is settings dot. I think it is a bad file. Let me see the extension. Yeah, it is a db file. Okay, dot db. Now, then what I have to give? I have to give the path where I want to install, like where I want to copy this file. So you could simply give this data. I will tell you what this data is. Okay, just press enter, and you could see this specific file is being copied. So in this specific path, how to check? Go to this path. Okay, just first of all you have to type adb cell, then not hell, sorry, adb cell. Now we have to type cd data ls. Now you could see, guys, right? We are having this file settings.db. Previously it was not there. If you will see, it was not there previously, right? But now we are having this. So this is how we could copy a file. Simply what you have to do, you have to type, it should be in small, adb should be in small, adb push the laptop path, laptop file path. Okay, and then we have to give the Android path. Here, guys. So this is to send a file from our laptop to Android device. Now, if we want to get a file from our Android device, if I want to get this file, this is the file, right? This is the file that I sent to this Android device, and I want to get it back. So for that, what command we'll be using? So for that, we'll be using this simple command, which is adb pull, and then the path, the file which we want to retrieve, the file that we want to copy from our Android device, right? adb pull the Android path. What was the path? It was data, and the file name. File name was settings.db. Clear, guys? And then we have to give our this system path, the laptop path. So this is the system path. Before that, what I will be doing, I will be deleting this file. Right now, what I will be doing, I will be copying this and I will be pasting it. Let me first of all exit. Okay, pasting is not working. Let me type adb pull the path which was data, and the file name was settings.db and laptop. Now, if you will go to this path, you could see we are having this file, right? I deleted this file and now we are having this file. Clear, guys, everyone? Let me know yes or no, everyone.
Yes, sir.
So this is how we could basically get a file. If you want to copy a file from our device, from our Android device, we could use this command. So these were a few basic commands that we were using. Clear, guys? Basic commands. Okay. So these were some basic commands that we were using. Now let us go to Android security architecture. Now, this was about ADB, guys. Clear? I am starting a new topic. Is this clear? We'll be discussing in the next session. In the upcoming session, we'll be discussing more. Okay. Now, the next thing, security architecture of Android. Can anyone tell me the security architecture of Android? What is the security architecture of Android? So this is the security architecture of an Android application. So first of all, we have applications, then we have application framework, then we have native libraries, then we have Linux kernel and the hardware. So we'll be discussing this in depth. Before it, we have to see a few things. So first of all, when we talk about Android, this security architecture of Android, we have two things. So the first thing is Android based model, and the second thing is Linux based model. Right now we are discussing the security architecture of Android, right? And then we'll be discussing the Android architecture of Android. So first of all, let us discuss the security architecture, right? So what is Android based model and what is Linux based model? So the difference between Android based model and Linux based model is, let me first of all change the number to So in Android based model, what is happening? Basically, the developer is declaring the permission in the application. So in Android based model, for example, I'm developing an application, right? So what I'm doing, I'm basically giving some permission in that application, which are required by the application to run. And this application, whatever application I'm developing, right? And this application that the user is running, all the permissions are granted by the user, right? For example, there is an Android device. I'm creating that devices, and what I'm doing, I'm basically giving some permissions. So in order to like, if you want to use that application, you have to give access to that permission. For example, if you use some apps, right? Sometimes, for example, you use Zomato. So Zomato will say, give your live location, right? You are giving permission. So that is what I'm discussing right now. So Android based model, what is happening? The permission in the application are required to run by the application is given or granted by the user. Okay, but before that, before Marshmallow 6.0, what was happening? All the permission of that application was basically asked at the runtime of that application or during the during the installation. For example, what was happening before Android version 6? For example, if you want to install an application, what you have to do? You have to give all the permission during the installation or at the runtime of the application. So that was happening before that Android Marshmallow, right? So this was happening before Android Marshmallow, also known as Android version 6. Okay. So in Android based model, what is happening? Basically, the developer is declaring some permission in the application which are required to run that application, and the permission which are required are granted by the user who is using that application, right? So this was what Android based model is. But what happened after Marshmallow 6.0, that all this, all the permissions which were there are granted by the user whenever they are required. So what was happening in simple language? Now, if you are using an Android device, right? In Android device, you are using an app, any app. You have noticed when you are using an application, for example, Ola and Uber, when location is required, then only they will say for the permission. They will ask for the permission, right, guys? For example, you are using Zomato, then only it will ask for your location. If you are using WhatsApp, then it will basically ask for your location. Sorry, it will ask for your contacts information, right? So this is what is now happening. But before to this Android 6 Marshmallow version, what was happening when we were installing that application? For example, you were installing an application prior to this Android 6. What was happening? All the permissions, right? All the permissions were given at the time of the installation or during the runtime of the application. So the user was not having any chance or any authority to give that permissions at the specific time. But what is happening after Android 6, if you are using an application and it is asking for any specific permission, you have to allow it. You have to grant the permission, right? How many of you have seen this? Let me know. Guys, unmute yourself and tell me. Can anyone give me an example what I was explaining right now? Guys, be active.
Sir,
Go ahead.
hello.
Yeah.
I have seen what you have said, and in latest version, those permission will also be revoked if not used for a long period of time.
Yeah, correct. For example, if you're using Instagram and if you are opening your like story part or any, like if you want to, you have to give a photo, anything, they will basically say, do you want to give camera permission, right? So that
Yes,
is
sir.
now happening. That is happening after Android 6. For example, the current Android version 11, right? 12. So this is happening in the latest Android version after 6. So all the Android devices which were after Android 6, so all of them is having this Android based model. So what is happening when we are running that application, then we have to give permission and the permissions are granted by the user. Okay, but before that it was not happening. Now the second thing, Linux based model. Any idea? No problem. So Linux-based model, as we know that Android is running on the top of Linux. I have already told you that Android is running on the top of Linux, right, guys? So as you all know that Linux has security architecture such as like it has separate UID and PID. Similar to that, our Android device is also having separate UID and PID, right? It is having separate UID. Sorry, it is having separate UID and PID. So this is Linux-based model. So it is having the same security architecture. So it is having separate, we could say, UID and PID. Okay. Now this path that I was using again and again. Let me explain you this. Can anyone tell me what this data is? So let me explain you. Whenever we install any application in our device, our Android device, for example, we are having this much applications, right? So if you install any application in your device, so each application is having a package name, I have told you, right? And all the package name, all the application are stored in this specific path. So all the applications are stored in this data path. Here, guys. So it is working directory of all the apps installed on the device. Here, guys. So this is the working directory of all the applications that we have installed on our Android device. And this path can only be seen on rooted device. And let me tell you, by default, Genymotion is rooted, right? So Genymotion is a rooted device. So every device that you are installing is rooted. Okay, so each device that you are installing and using, all the devices are rooted, and you can only access this specific path in the rooted device. Okay, so if your device is rooted, then only you could see this specific path. Clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we could only access this in rooted device. Any doubt, guys? Let me know. Okay. Now this was what? This was the security architecture. In security architecture, we are having Android-based model and we are having Linux-based model. Now the next thing is basically the architecture of Android. Simple architecture of Android. The diagram that I have showed you previously, it was of Android, architecture of Android. Let me show you one more time. So this is the architecture of Android. So you could see this image, right, guys? So this is basically, so this is the architecture of an Android. Okay. So in an Android, what is happening? We are having a lot of things. So the first thing is application, then application framework, then we are having Android runtime, platform libraries, Linux kernel. Okay. So I will be discussing one by one. Yeah, we will be installing Play Store in Genymotion. I will be telling you how to do that with the help of Open Gaps. Just wait, okay? So, architecture of Android. So, what we are going to understand in architecture, basically, we are having the 5 things: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Application is the first. Application framework is the second. Android runtime is the third. Platform libraries are the fourth, and Linux kernel is the last one. So in application, basically applications consist of your contact application, your Gmail application, right? All the applications which are installed in your Android OS, it comes under this application. For example, if you're using any app, Amazon, any app, right? So all that comes under this applications. Application frameworks, basically if you are calling someone, if you are receiving a notification, right? All that things are done with the help of this application framework. For example, if you're getting a notification from WhatsApp, Twitter, in your phone, right? So all the things are done with the help of this application framework. For example, your activity manager, your notification manager, content providers, right, guys? So this is what application framework consists of. Next thing, we could say libraries, right? There is this libraries. Basically, libraries consist of different things such as your SQLite, OpenGL, right? So we have different types of libraries that we use, okay? Then we have Android runtime. Now, let me give you Android runtime, APT, and DVM. I will be explaining them. We have Android runtime and we have DVM. What this Android runtime and DVM is, basically, these are the place where the application is working, right? So this are the place where the application is working. And the last one is Linux kernel. Basically, all the drivers and hardwares comes under this specific part. So if you are having any hardware, any drivers installed in our Android OS, so that comes under this Linux kernel. Clear, everyone? Now, okay. Now we have to discuss about APT and DVM. So what is ATP and DVM? So let me type the full form. So this is not ATP, it is ART, sorry. So ART stands for Android runtime. Okay, and DVM stands for Dalvik virtual machine, right? So we are having two things: ART, Android runtime, and Dalvik virtual machine. So let us discuss one by one. So what Android runtime is, basically this is being used after Android Lollipop, the 5.0 version, 5.0 Lollipop version, right? So this was like used after all the versions which came after this 5.0. Okay, so like our current Android app, current Android OS is using this ART, right? Android 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all are using ART, Android runtime. But before this like Android 5, what was used? This Dalvik virtual machine was used. Okay, it was used till Android version 4.4. Can anyone tell me the name of Android 4.4 version? What was the
KitKat.
name? Correct. So this Dalvik virtual machine was only used till 4.4 KitKat. But after this, Android runtime came. Okay, after like all the devices which are after 5, 6, 7, they are having this ART, right? Now, what is the difference between ART and DVM? The main difference between ART and DVM. So in ART, we follow AOT compilation. AOT compilation. So, are we having any Android developer? Can anyone tell me, is there any Android developer in this internship who knows how to create applications? Anyone who knows how to create? Okay, no problem. Now, the major difference between ART and DVM is that ART follows AOT compilation. AOT stands for ahead of time. What this ahead of time is, basically it is converting the source code of an application before the execution of or runtime of that application. For example, if you are going to run that application, so it is executing the source code before running it, right? And this is basically increasing the overall performance of that application. So if you will just compare, if you will install an application in your latest Android version and the KitKat 4.4, you will see that the application loading is very slow as compared to the latest one. So in this ART, what is happening, it is following the AOT compilation ahead of time, which means that the source code is of that application, any application, is basically executed or execution is done at the runtime or before the runtime, right? And it is increasing the performance of that application, right? So the full form of this ART is Android runtime, and the full form of AOT is ahead of time. Ahead of time. Clear, guys? Am I clear? So in this, what is happening when we are using an application, what is happening? The source code of an application is executing before or at the runtime of the application. So it is basically increasing the overall performance. Clear, guys? So this is what ART is. But in DVM, what was happening? It is basically using JIT compilation, just in time. So what is happening when we are using an application, at that time it is converting the source code. So when we are using an application, so what is happening when we are opening that application, at that time only it is converting the source code into machine code during the runtime. So at the runtime the compilation is done, and this is slow as compared to this ART. So ART is fast because the compilation is done before, right? The execution is done before the runtime. But in this DVM, what is happening? The source code compilation is done during the runtime. Clear, guys? Everyone clear? Okay. Now, what is the source code compilation process? Can anyone tell me? What is the source code compilation process? So what is happening? The first step is when there is a Java source code, right? There is a Java source code. Then what is happening? This Java source code is going into Java compiler. If you want to run Java, right? We want to run the we want to run this source code. So we need a Java compiler, right? So what we are doing, we are using this Java compiler. So first of all, we are having Java source code. Then we are having Java compiler to compile. Then we are having this Java bytecode, right? After this process, we are having Java bytecode. Then after this, we are having DEX compilation, right? Or we could say compiler. So the first step is Java source code, then Java compiler, then Java bytecode, and then we are having DEX compiler. Okay, after this, what is happening? We are having this Delvik bytecode. Okay, and after this, we are having this .dx. Okay, so this is basically basically this is the executable code. Okay, so this is executable code. So this .dex is executable code. Okay, now this DX file are basically zipped together. All this DX file are zipped together to form an application. So this .dex files are zipped together, okay, to form an app. Clear, guys? So basically the last thing that we are getting, this .dex, right? The executable code. What we are doing, we are basically compiling it. We are basically doing zip. We are basically, all the DEX files are zipped together to form an application, right? Let me know, yes or no. Is this clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, okay, let me see the time. Okay, so guys, this was all for today. So the rest thing we'll be covering from tomorrow. Okay, so we have covered till this source code compilation process. Okay, so tomorrow we'll be seeing this Android. We'll be seeing this unpacking and reverse of an Android applications. So from tomorrow we'll be starting this, and we'll be seeing how to install Play Store in our Genymotion. Clear, everyone? So we have done this module 1, we have done this module 2, module 3 has been completed. We have to see this G Suite. I will be telling this tomorrow. Module 4 is completed. Module 5 is completed. Module 6 completed. We'll be seeing this tomorrow. Yeah. Guys, any doubt? Please let me know, anyone. If you are having any doubts, anything. Guys, you can turn on your mic and you could let me know, anyone.